Hey everyone, welcome back. Ready for another deep dive?
Definitely.
So it's this English learning podcast called Daily Money Briefing.
Huh. Interesting. Okay.
It's actually pretty cool. You get the
Yeah.
financial news and kind of a language lesson all in one.
Oh, I like that. Sort of killing two birds with one stone.
Exactly.
Your shortcut to, well, knowing what's really going on.
That's right.
Today, we're digging into some sources that really show how connected everything is in global markets.
That's quite a reb.
Our mission, as always, is to pull out the key shifts, those aha moments for you. We're looking at U.S. Iran tensions, what that means for oil, and then pivoting to South Korea, a surprising KOSPI rally, plus some pretty bold corporate reforms happening.
Yeah, two very different, but maybe linked stories.
Exactly. You'll see how things happening, seemingly worlds apart actually connect.
Hmm.
So let's start with the Middle East. Pretty dramatic. A recent U.S. airstrike, 3 Iranian nuclear facilities were hit. That's obviously sparked huge concern.
Yeah, massive concern. Everyone's watching Tehran now, waiting to see how they might retaliate.
Directly? Or maybe through proxy groups?
Could be either, or both. And analysts are, seriously talking about a worst-case scenario. A full-scale conflict isn't off the table.
Scary stuff. And the markets, how are they taking this?
Well, it's fascinating how fast markets react. The biggest worry, oil, predictably.
Right, always oil.
Especially when you look at the geography. The Strait of Hormuz, that's the key
It's a
point.
choke point. How much oil goes through there again?
About a fifth of the world's total supply. A fifth. So if that gets blocked,
Okay.
analysts are warning crude could spike. We're talking maybe past $130 a barrel.
$130.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, think about the ripple effects. Global supply chains, inflation.
Yeah.
It would cause serious volatility. Very real shockwaves.
Okay, so let's shift focus. South Korea, a much more positive story, it seems.
Definitely. Quite the turnaround over there.
Yeah.
The KOSPI index,
Yeah.
it finally broke through 3,000.
After what, nearly 3.5 years? That's quite a milestone.
It really is. And it seems fueled by, well, better investor sentiment. Things look clearer politically, maybe hope for some pro-market policies coming.
And foreign investors, I read something about them changing their tune.
Oh, completely. That's maybe the most significant part. They were net sellers for 9 straight months. 9 months.
Wow.
Now, they've flipped big time, turned into net buyers, and really ramped up buying in June.
So what's giving them that confidence all of a sudden? Is it just the index momentum?
Well, it's linked, but there's something deeper happening too.
Right.
At the same time as this rally, South Korea is really pushing ahead with corporate governance reforms.
Uh-huh. Okay. The Korea discount stuff.
Exactly. They're tackling treasury shares head on.
Yeah.
Shares a company buys back from the market and then just kind of sits on.
Yeah. Doesn't really help shareholders much sometimes.
Right. Critics say it hides the real value. So now, the rule's changing. If a listed company holds more than 1% of its shares as treasury stock,
Down from 5%? That's a big drop.
it is. They'll need to disclose way more info and, crucially, give actual plans for canceling those shares.
Canceling them, so taking them out of circulation.
Precisely. It forces companies either use that capital for growth or give it back to shareholders by canceling shares. That reduces the total shares out there, boosts earnings per share. It's potentially a game changer for how Korean stocks are valued.
Interesting. So better transparency, better returns.
That's the goal. And they've even set up a new committee, the Commercial Law Reform Committee, to look at even deeper changes. So it seems serious this time.
Okay, so reforms are underway. Sounds great for Korea. But, we started with Iran. Is there a catch? Could that global tension derail this?
Absolutely. There's always a catch.
Yeah.
That interconnectedness works both ways. No market is an island.
Right.
So,
Okay.
yes, the U.S. Iran situation escalating, that could definitely shake global markets enough to dampen Bear's run, even with all these positive domestic factors.
Okay, so caution is still needed. But for someone looking at Korea specifically, are there any strategic areas to focus on given these dynamics?
Yeah, definitely. If you're looking inside Korea, think about where the government might be putting its money. There's a second supplementary budget coming.
Fiscal stimulus.
Right. So sectors likely to benefit, domestic consumption businesses, payment processors, securities firms, maybe construction.
Any areas to maybe avoid for now? Things that look too hot?
Good question. I'd probably be cautious about chasing sectors that have already run up a lot, maybe look overbought. Think banking, defense, shipbuilding, they've had strong runs.
So look elsewhere.
Maybe look at industries that haven't performed as well yet but might have upside, especially if they align with the new government's priorities.
Like what?
Things like semiconductors, obviously still huge for Korea, internet companies, biotech, and secondary batteries, the EV supply chain stuff, those could get a nice tailwind from policy and reform.
Got it. So it really brings it all together. Geopolitics in one corner, national policy and reform in another, all hitting the market.
It really does. It underscores how you can't just look at one piece of news in isolation. You have to trace the threads.
So the deep dive lesson today is really that interconnectedness.
Exactly. You know, realizing how an airstrike thousands of miles away could genuinely influence the value of your favorite Korean tech stock. It shows just how linked geopolitics, corporate rules, and market moves really are.
Makes you wonder, doesn't it? What other patterns, what ripple effects might you uncover if you started looking for these connections in the news that interests you? Something to think about.
What stood out most to you from today's insights? Thanks for diving deep with us today.